Welcome back to Unapologetically Visible, the podcast for high achieving Latinas and women of color founders who are done being the best kept secret. I'm your host, Christina Olivarez, award winning visibility and leadership coach, TEDx speaker, and founder of the Social Butterfly Gal and Hustle and Socialize. One of the biggest questions I hear from my coaching clients, and honestly, one of the questions that I often ask myself is this: how do I still show up online for my brand and business when life is lifing? How do I still show up as an effective leader, especially when life is lifing? If you're a coach or a CEO or someone who people look up to, especially as an expert, there's going to come a time when your life is lifing. We are all human. I feel like there's this common misconception that just because you're an expert, you're suddenly immune to all of the hard times or the curveballs that life loves to throw. There may be times when your nervous system feels completely maxed out, but there's still people that look up to you for your vision, leadership, content, coaching, and guidance. It can feel very overwhelming because you not only have to show up for those that you serve, like your family, your kids, your clients, your team, but most importantly, you have to show up for yourself. Even the best of the best coaches, the best CEOs, the best leaders experience hard times in their professional and personal lives. I've experienced more than one hardship throughout the last decade of my entrepreneurial career. There has been one huge lesson that I've had to learn and endure, and that is that your leadership isn't built on the mountaintop. It's not built by how shiny your highlight reel looks or all of the wins that you've had. Your reputation, credibility, and even your legacy are built when you're in the trenches. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to share some of my own stories of when life has been lifing for me, especially right now in this current season that I'm in. I'm going to give you a framework for building a sustainable online, offline presence. I want you to think of this as a guide on how to still be visible without burning out. And at the end of this podcast episode, I will guide you through a grounding practice that I love to use with my clients and with myself. So grab your cafecito and let's get into it. I will never, ever forget the day that my husband Pete called me to inform me about his unexpected layoff. This was the final day in July of 2023. And at that point, so many things were happening that were making me really excited about the growth and the direction of my life and my business. I had just won a $10,000 grant. It was a COVID grant. I had just finished the first Hustle and Socialize conference by myself without my business partner. I was just experiencing a lot of wins in that season. And so I felt like, okay, we're growing and it's getting really exciting. That day started off like a normal Monday. Went to work, went to my co-working space, had a couple of great calls. But it was super weird because throughout that weekend, both Pete and I kind of just knew that something was coming. Call it a gut feeling or a premonition. We just kind of felt that even though he had been with his employer for over 4 years, something just felt off and didn't seem right. And I think at that time, we kind of knew that he needed to kind of just think about other opportunities because of the fact that we just knew something was off. And what was so weird about me in that specific Monday is that I normally have therapy on Tuesdays. But for some strange reason, my therapist moved our therapy session from Tuesday to Monday on that week. And you know what? I'm super grateful for that because when this happened, I was able to speak to my therapist for a little bit of time and she was able to ground me and just make me feel safe in the capabilities that I needed to have to be able to hold space for my husband at that time. So with 5 minutes before I was going to hit the join session button to jump in the virtual portal with my therapist, that's when my phone rang and it was Pete. Because I had my phone on Do Not Disturb and because Pete is the one name that can bypass the Do Not Disturb, I thought it was really weird because he knew that I had therapy. So why was he calling me literally like 5 minutes before my therapy session? When I answered, I had no idea what I was about to hear was going to change our trajectory for the next 2 years. They let me go. Those were his exact words. I could hear him walking to his car, and in that moment, time literally stopped. I screamed, "What?" And immediately my stomach dropped. I was speechless. I didn't know what to do at that moment. All I knew, though, as a partner and a spouse and a wife, I was ready to put on my boots and march over to his former employer and give him a piece of my mind. But that wasn't going to solve anything. I really wanted to scream and cry. And immediately, I think my brain was like, let me go into fix it mode. But in that moment, I completely felt numb. It was interesting because that's when my therapist went onto the screen and I had to tell her about everything that had literally just happened. I also had to tell her that I was going to have to jump off the second that he gets home. So I really needed some type of grounding exercise or something to just calm my nerves and to calm my anxiety. Because I knew within that moment, as an entrepreneur, my role suddenly shifted and my role went into survival mode. And as a wife, my role also shifted because I knew that in that moment, in that present moment in time, I needed to be so fully present to be able to allow for Pete to have the space to feel every single feeling that he was feeling in that moment, and to also provide him a safe and brave space to experience the many stages of grief that I knew that he was going to go down through. That's sadness, anger, denial, all of those feelings. When Pete got home, we just sat there in silence. So many things were going through my head at that moment. Not a lot gets said about the emotional and mental and financial roller coaster that happens when an unexpected life change occurs. 2 years later, I can 100% say that we're still feeling the weight of that layoff and the domino effects that occurred when that layoff happened. While yes, I'm so proud of us that we've survived this together, we've gotten closer as a married couple, and I'm proud to say that at the end of this year, we're celebrating 8 years of marriage and 14 years together as a couple. I feel like this experience has allowed us to be more aligned within our visions of the future, what we want, what we don't want, and we're definitely more in alignment with our finances and being able to track every single dollar that goes in and out, and also put savings away and have a better idea of where we want to be financially in the present and in the future. But I won't be lying if I said that in that moment, I felt like I just really wanted to crawl up in a ball and hide away from the world. Because even though the experience did happen to him, it also happened for the both of us. And at that moment in time, I knew that I couldn't let my anxiety and depression get to me. I knew that I had to be rooted as a highly visible leader. The next day, August 1st, 2023, I went to my co-working space with a fire, a huge spark, because I knew that this was the moment that I had to step up as a leader and a wife, a partner in all of the things. That was one of the first big lessons that I had within my leadership, which is you don't get to just press pause on being visible when life throws you a curveball. Life is going to throw you curveballs all the time, whether it's you, your partner, your loved ones, but you also don't have to perform at the same level you did when it felt lighter. And I think that was really key because, yes, I went into hustle mode. I always believe that in life, you're going to have seasons where you do have to hustle. It's not a dirty word. And in fact, as somebody who has a company with that word attached to its name, I think it's really important to know that, yes, you're going to have to hustle. You're going to have to grind. But when it starts becoming really bad, when hustle starts compromising your health, or you feel very burned out, that's where you have to check yourself and how your hustle is in alignment or out of alignment with your nervous system regulation and safety. Many of the women I serve also navigate a lot of health issues, especially with their mental health. But many of you navigate anxiety and depression just like I do, or have other health-related conditions all while running your business. And keeping up with the demands that life has for you. Some days it could feel like your body and your brain are in two different spaces and are two different meetings. I know for me personally, navigating that time frame, there were mornings where I would wake up and I just didn't have the energy to do my morning workouts or journal and meditate or even take a shower. My body was stuck in freeze mode, and I had to really find ways to get out of that freeze mode so that I could be able to show up for myself that day. There were a lot of mornings where I would wake up and a wave of depression and anxiety would hit, and all I wanted to do is cry about my circumstances. Some days I wanted to crawl up in a ball and be under the covers and just not let myself get out because a lot of the anxieties that I were feeling were just really crippling. Sometimes when I finally got the courage to get up and say, you know what, I'm going to work from the couch today, I would sit in front of my laptop and think, I don't have anything to say right now, or I just don't feel like showing up on camera. When I took my mid-year sabbatical in July of 2025, I really wanted to focus on building sustainable visibility. Because I knew that in that time frame, even though I was taking a break, my visibility couldn't vanish entirely. Like, yes, it's totally fine to not post online for a couple of days if you want to be off the grid or if you want to completely unplug. Please tell me how you unplug, because for me, somebody who's chronically online, even unplugging for about 24 to 48 hours is still brings me a lot of anxiety. So I really wanted to make sure that during my sabbatical, not only was I allowing me to have space and freedom to take a break, but I also knew that the people that I was currently serving, like the clients that were still working with me at that time, they still needed to be felt. They still needed to be served. And my audience still needed to know that I was here. And that meant being a little bit vulnerable or sharing a bit of my personal life and what I was going through in that moment in time. And even sometimes not sharing at all. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you're juggling your kids' schedules or a health scare, money stress, or even navigating grief. Unfortunately, life doesn't pause because life throws you a curveballs. You still have to show up to be a CEO, a wife, a leader, all the things, because bills don't stop. The daily tasks still keep piling up. And this is where I had to ask myself the question that I now ask my own clients. When it comes to my visibility and my leadership, what is the simplest, most sustainable way I can let my people feel and see me without burning out when life is lifing? So let me walk you through how I think about this now. This is what I coach my clients through, and it's what's kept me visible even through my hard seasons. I want you to think about your visibility as a very simple strategy. We're here to choose simplicity over any complicated strategy ever. Because when life is heavy, you're going to need to strip your visibility down to its simplest form. Maybe that's hopping on Instagram stories with only text, not showing your face, but being able to write down everything that you're experiencing or write down ways that you still know that you can serve your audience without having to overcomplicate it by showing your face. Sometimes for me, if I was not in a place to show up on camera and I knew I still wanted to post videos or reels or TikToks, I knew that I could easily repurpose content that I had already posted and make it into a new simple form without overcomplicating my video creating processes. Sometimes that looked like pulling a 60-second clip from a podcast that I was on. You were still getting that visible on-camera, talk-to-camera presence without actually me showing up. Some days it looked like creating carousels or just posting a photo with simple text on it. I knew that I needed to do this instead of trying to film a whole entire new video or reel. The question becomes, what's the least energetic, it's expensive way I can still let my audience feel me? And if you're a service-based business owner or a coach, this is where we start anchoring in your client delivery. When life is lifing, yes, your family comes first, but the people you serve, like your clients, also become a really big priority. When your capacity is stretched, you want to make sure that you are reducing the weight of your marketing expectations and double down on your presence with your clients. You could send them a quick voice note, give them a handwritten recap, or remind them that I'm still in your corner. Because when you show up deeply for your clients, that energy spills outwards. They will refer you, they'll talk about you, and they'll keep your name alive in rooms that you are not in, especially during a very tough season. The next thing to consider when life is lifing is shifting from volume to intimacy. This is where most leaders mess up because they think that visibility has to be loud, and they think that being visible has to mean showing up every single day from a cadence that they are unable to do because of the fact that life is lifing. This is where you have to recalibrate. Shifting from volume to intimacy means that you want to start leaning into more intimate spaces. Think about this in a way of, instead of going to a huge networking event, where can you lean into with warm leads or a group text thread within your community, like a broadcast channel? A lot of us mistake consistency with frequency. I think a lot of us think that being visible and being consistent means that you need to be doing it every single day and you have to do it at the highest caliber rate, when in reality, we want to think about it from a different lens of visibility. From a consistent aspect just means that you are consistently showing up as you every single time, even if that means that it's not every single day, or it's in a way that allows you to still be fully present and be felt with the people that matter the most. I think it's also important to remind yourself that yes, transparency will bring and build trust. However, you don't need to share everything. I think so many people, especially several of the conversations that I'm having with a lot of my clients and just with people that I trust, when we think about being transparent, sometimes it comes with this notion that vulnerability equals trauma dumping. And when you're in a season where you are not able to fully communicate how you are feeling and the things that you're experiencing, sometimes the simplest form of just naming the season that you are in starts building intimacy. Maybe if you're not ready to share everything that you're experiencing, you could just say, hey, I'm holding a lot right now, but I want you to know that my clients are my priority and I'm still here. This reassures your community and the people that you serve because they don't need to know the full detail. They just need to know that you are steady and consistent, not only for them, but for yourself, so that you could lead and guide them. One of the biggest things that I like to do when I'm in a hard season is have a visibility buffer. This one is huge. When you're in a season of higher energy, this is where you are able to create that buffer. I love to batch my podcast episodes or batch my talk to camera videos and create emails where they're already written and all I have to do is just copy and paste into ConvertKit. This saves me so much time when life gets heavy and when I'm in a season where I can't be scrambling to create content. You have to have something to lead on. And so having a visibility buffer allows you to keep showing up with consistency, even when your personal brand bandwidth is shrinking. I want you to remember that your presence doesn't have to be perfect. Repeat that after me. My presence doesn't have to be perfect. The women you're called to lead, they'll trust you more, not less, when they see that you can honor your humanity and still show up with intention and passion. So let's do this together. I want to take you through a grounding practice that I love doing for myself almost every single day and something that I do within my one-on-one coaching containers. If you are not driving right now, if you're listening to this while possibly doing another activity, I want you to take a pause, put both feet on the ground, and I want you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale slowly through your mouth. Put one hand over your heart and one hand on your stomach. I want you to imagine the version of you who's already walked through this hard and difficult season. Maybe it's 6 months from now or even a year. I want you to see her, see how calmer she is, how more grounded she is, how clearer she is. I also want you to take note on how she carries herself. How does she show up online? How does she hold her leadership with her family, her friends, her clients, all of her loved ones, and the people that she serves? Now I want you to ask her, what would you have me do right now in this hard season? What is the simplest way that I could keep showing up online as a highly visible leader? What is the simplest way that I could keep showing up for myself and lead with integrity in this moment? Sit with that answer. Trust it. You can open your eyes now. This is how we recalibrate. Not by pushing harder, but by anchoring deeper. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. Success is not a straight climb. There is going to be so many hard seasons in your entrepreneurial journey. There's going to be a lot of cycles of rising, recalibrating, reimagining, failing, having to get back up, especially when life is lifing. You are human. And if you were a seasoned entrepreneur who has had so many forms of life throughout that journey, life is going to life too. Those are the seasons that are going to shape you into a more grounded, grace-filled, led, trustworthy leader. I want you to believe in that. If you resonated with this episode, here's what I want you to do next. Subscribe and leave a review, because that helps this podcast reach more women like us, women who were never meant to stay hidden, women who are meant to be highly visible leaders. Share this episode with someone you love who needs this reminder about showing up for herself when life is lifing. I want you to remember that we're never alone. And DM me on Instagram at the Social Butterfly Gal. Tell me your biggest reframe, your biggest breakthrough from today's conversation. If you're feeling the call to go deeper, to recalibrate your personal brand, leadership, and your visibility, I would love to support you through one-on-one coaching. You can find the coaching information and my offers in the links in the show notes below, or you can send me a DM with the word coaching, and I'll personally walk you through what offers are in alignment with your current season and what it looks like to step into this next era with clarity, confidence, and unapologetic authority. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you so much for all of the shares and reviews. Remember this, you didn't come this far to play safe. You came to be unapologetically visible. I'll see you next week.